Okay, we're back. The next item is item number 27, 38 Wolfrey Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. There are no speakers listed other than the agent, and this is a very straightforward one, so I don't think we need a presentation, but can I have the agent identify himself for the record?
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Tony Valentin. I am the agent for the owner, and my address is number 8 Wellesley Street East.
Alrighty, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions for the, sorry, it's echoing really bad here. Can you turn the volume down maybe? Yeah? Okay, let's try this again. We don't need a presentation. Members, do you have any questions for the agent? Okay. Mr. Valentin, we've read all the materials. We don't need a presentation. We don't have any questions. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, that will be fine. That will be all.
Okay, thank you. Let's take it into committee for a decision, members. Mr. Reed.
Chair, I think this is an extremely straightforward application with a modest addition being proposed, and the only variance is related to FSI. So I think it's clear that this is a minor variance request, and I move to approve with no conditions.
Okay, do I have Mr. Bayat, seconder? Okay, motion to approve, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Okay, your application's been unanimously approved. The next item is item number 28, 15 Riverdale Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. We have a covering letter from the agent, 2 form letters in support from number 5 and 16 Riverdale, correspondence in opposition from number 3, 7, 12, 13, 17, 19, and 37 Riverdale. And this is the one where I actually have a question to the agent regarding the purpose. I believe it's supposed to, that it's a semi, not a detached, but if I can have the agent start by identify himself for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brett Buckets. I am the agent for 15 Riverdale Avenue, and that is correct. The notice that went out did note a 2-story detached dwelling. It is in fact a semi-attached.
Okay, thanks for clarifying. Okay, we do have some speakers in opposition. Do you have all 3? Okay, we have 3 speakers in opposition, so if I can ask you to do a presentation, no more than 5 minutes, please.
Sure. We are here today seeking relief of minor variances related to floor space index, main wall height for the side yard, exterior stairs going down to the basement walkout at the rear of the addition, and an administrative party wall permit for proposed alterations to the existing dwelling. Through the lens of the committee's review today, extensive efforts were made during the development of the proposed design to maintain the general intent and purpose of the city's official plan and zoning bylaw. The evolution of the proposal was consciously developed in consideration of enhanced privacy and updated functionality for a young growing family, whereby the owners actively engaged immediate neighbors for feedback throughout the process and in advance of applying to the community of adjustments. Certain aspects of the design were intentionally curated to be sensitive to overall building depth, rear main wall height, overall building height, and density to arrive at a solution which we feel is in keeping with established precedent of similar applications approved by the committee. Through researching previous decisions in close proximity on similar sized lots and building type, we have pulled relevant data for which I'd like to reference only a few precedents where similar minor variances have been approved by the committee. One of which is 21 Riverdale, which had an approved FSI
Okay. We'll have you back after we hear from the opposition, and members will ask any questions at that time also. All right, Mr. Shep, are you on the line?
Hi, David. You're unmuted. Can you hear us?
No comments at this time, thank you.
Hi, can you just identify yourself for the record, name and address, please?
David Shep, 1 Riverdale Avenue.
All right.
No comments.
So you have no comments. All right, thank you. Mr. Ciaraldi?
Yes, I'm here.
Can you also identify yourself, name and address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Paul Ciraldi, and I live at 13 Riverdale Avenue.
Okay, did you want to speak, sir?
Yes, please.
Okay, we're starting the clock now, and you have 5 minutes.
My house shares a party wall with 15, and I'm one of 2 neighbors most affected by this project. My 50 years of designing residential and commercial interiors and buildings inform my opposition to it. The 3 variances should not be granted because, 1, allowing the exterior stair to be located on the property line of 17 rather than 0.6 meters away puts the pedestrian traffic immediately adjacent to and facing the sunroom, balcony, and bedrooms of number 17. What little privacy is afforded currently by our tiny 5.5 meter wide lots is eroded by this placement. 2, the proposed height of 9.1 meters is 2.4 meters above the allowed height. This 32% increase in heights creates a daunting, overbearing, hulking character well beyond the scale of the neighboring houses, negatively affecting the sunlight and privacy of the occupants of 13 and 17. This height is also 0.6 meters higher than the existing roof peak. A height that is nearly 1/3 beyond what is allowed cannot be viewed to be in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And third, the proposed floor space index is 0.86, which is 43% beyond the allowed 0.6. This results in a structure that dwarfs the nearby houses, adversely impacting the scale and character of the backyard environment, an area that is now extensively utilized by the neighboring occupants. An increase of over 55% over the existing size of the building on a lot this small cannot be considered minor. I also object because, 1, the applicant's letter erroneously claims that 15 is a detached dwelling. It is in fact semi-detached. 2, the addition extends 0.5 meters past the existing back wall and 0.6 meters past the back wall of my house, 13. Third, no sun study has been submitted to show the negative impact of the addition on the bedrooms and sunrooms of 13 and 17. Fourth, the year-long construction will negatively impact the already strained parking situation both on Riverdale Avenue and the private laneway at the rear of the properties. 5, the noise, debris, vibration, pollution from the construction will also affect the quality of our life and the operation of my home-based design business and my wife's part-time work from home. 6, the raised roof line and west wall of the addition will increase the snow load on the second floor roof and sunroom roof of 13, a snow load for which they have not been designed. 7, the nature of the construction of the east wall of the sunroom of 13, an addition that predates my time as owner, is unknown. And 8, no structural engineer's report has been submitted to address issues 6 and 7. 9, the residents of 15 did in fact ask my opinion of an early 2-story addition proposal when I commented that the structure would have an overbearing, privacy intrusive nature and extend past the original footprint of their house. They countered with this larger, even more intrusive design. I have 4 slides that I've asked to be put up. I can't see you, so theoretically they're being put up now. The first one is page 4 for my proposal. It illustrates a sun study that I did showing the negative impact of the addition, the sunlight at the bedroom of 13 in the morning and the sunroom of 17 in the afternoon, and the additional snow load areas of 13. Page 5, or slide 2, shows the current scale and tight spacing of the neighboring houses, both from the front and the rear. These houses are only 0.9 meters apart on 5.5 meter wide lots. That's 18 feet. Slide 3 or page 6 illustrates the out-of-scale nature of the addition when viewed from the backyards. And page 7 or slide 4 shows how currently no shadows are cast on the sunroom of 17, even as late as 5 p.m., while the proposed addition will cast the same shadows as early as 1 p.m. Please read this in a total of 7 letters in opposition to this project, and do not allow the proposed addition to 15 Riverdale to proceed. We neighbors feel that the proposed addition requires variances that should not be considered minor, is not desirable for the development of properties in our area, is not in keeping with the character of our neighborhood, and is disruptive to our lives and my home-based design business. 21 Riverdale was in fact approved by the committee, and it's a bad precedent. We hope you don't repeat this mistake with this project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions of the speakers, of the speaker panel members? No? Okay, thank you, Mr. Ciaraldi.
Thank you.
Do I have Tina or Elizabeth Krenis on the line?
Yes, Tina Krenis.
Okay, if you could state your address also for the record, and then we will start the clock after you've done that.
Okay, my name is Tina Krenis, and my address is 17 Riverdale Avenue.
Okay, go ahead.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to address this matter. I will be speaking on behalf of my family. Once again, we'd like to express our strong objection to the proposed addition of 15 Riverdale Avenue. We want to protect and defend our quality of life and our rights as homeowners. Our concerns and objections are valid and legitimate. 17 Riverdale Avenue has been our beloved home for over 55 years. Until now, we had never experienced such issues and potential upheaval with any neighbors, both past and present. This has been an extremely stressful and painful situation for us. We not only love this neighborhood and its rich history, but we respect it. The current owners of 15 Riverdale willingly and knowingly purchased a 2-story, semi-detached house on a small lot. Now they want to expand at our expense. We will have to live through a lengthy construction period. The noise, pollution, and debris will negatively affect our quality of life. Furthermore, this expansion does not conform to the character of the neighborhood. These variances are not minor in nature. They will have a detrimental effect on our property, our lives, and mental health. The location of the stairs at a clearance of 0.0 meters will be extremely close and directly encroach on our privacy. The maximum height permitted of the exterior wall will increase from 7.5 meters to 9.91, thus resulting in a 32% increase over the allowable size, which is not minor in nature. The structure will tower over our house and property, drastically decreasing the amount of sunlight we receive and forever altering our view and diminishing our backroom enjoyment and garden productivity. The increase in the proposed floor space and depth is 0.86, which is 43% beyond the set FSI. A 55% increase in the gross area of the existing dwelling is not minor in nature. This will have a negative impact on our home, backyard, and mental health. We will be faced with a looming structure that we will have to view on a daily basis. This will negatively impact our home life and any backyard enjoyment and gardening. The expansion will have a lasting and negative impact on our lives, our house, our garden, our backyard, our mental health, our privacy, our exposure to sunlight, and property values. There will be a looming structure dwarfing our house, infringing on our privacy and cutting off sunlight. This addition is not in keeping with the landscape or fabric of this neighborhood. We should be supporting our senior homeowners. If this addition is allowed, we will be irrevocably penalized to serve someone else's self-interest. They become the victors and we become the victims. In conclusion, we strongly and vigorously oppose this expansion. The revisions and variances are definitely not minor in nature, and these additions should not be allowed. Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, Brett. You're unmuted. Unless you're muted on your end.
No, I was just waiting to be prompted.
Yeah, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Is there anyone else to speak, or is it my?
No, that's it. I didn't hear you calling your name, but it's okay. Oh, you know what? I think my mic's off. So sorry about that. That's why you didn't hear me. So yeah, go ahead if you can just rebut the issues that were raised. Thanks.
Sure. There were a number of issues raised, some of which I believe to be relevant, some of which I'm unable to speak on with respect to solar angles and the geometry of people's quality of life being affected by the proposed design. I would submit that it's unfair characterization of homeowners to say that they didn't or they haven't ingratiated or made an attempt to ingratiate with neighbors with respect to their plan to develop their property, which is well within their right to do so. Speaking to some of the issues, the tangible issues of the staircase located at the east side property, we're going for a zero setback just because there would be a retaining wall required if it was disclosed to the neighbors at 17, that the cost burden of which in the construction of logistics would be absorbed as part of the budget and scope of the project. The nature of the sort of long treads descending down to the walkout, the owners are avid cyclists, and it's a sort of easier thoroughfare for them to sort of walk along the building and with their bicycles and take them into the mudroom space at the lower area. With respect to the, I guess, proximity to the existing addition somewhat past, again, we designed the building from a length and overall height standpoint to conform as best possible with respect to the sidewall, main sidewall height. We stepped back the third floor addition and tried to stretch the building vertically to have as minimal impact on the rear yard as possible. To the neighbor's comment about the original design that was proposed, it was a two-story addition without a third floor. That would have required a building depth variance. So based on the feedback from the neighbor, we went back to the drawing board at the owner's expense to redesign plans to be stretched more vertical while still being able to accommodate the program requirements for a young, expanding, growing family who like their neighbors, do have a requirement to work from home as well, and the additional square footage is a need for them. Sorry, there was a lot in there, but if there's anything specifically that the members of the committee would like me to comment on or clarify, I'd be happy to expand further.
Okay. Mr. Clay, did you have a question?
Sure, thanks, Chair. I'm just, you'll forgive me, and I just need to understand variance number 1 a little bit better, which is the variance for stairs. And I'm just looking at the rear elevation. Is the variance it's side yard setback to the semi, right? Is it to number 13? Is that where the setback is triggered?
Sorry, so there's with respect to the zero setback to the neighbor 13, which requires a party wall permit. It's my understanding and experience that this is dealt with at the building permit level. When we had originally approached them about the redevelopment, there didn't appear to be any concern about the nature of what was being proposed, more so the
That's great. I don't want to belabor this, but you'll just forgive me. I'm not sure which is east and west. So the variance is, I'm looking at the rear elevation. The variance is to the right side.
Correct. If you're looking at A4.2.
Yeah, so it's to the left or the right?
To the right.
Oh, it's to the right. So it's the bottom of the staircase.
Yes, sir.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, but isn't that further away from the lot line than the existing stair from the current building?
That is correct.
So the existing condition for the staircase is even further into the setback.
I'd have to confirm on the original survey, but I do believe that to be.
Yeah, I was just checking the original drawings. It looks like it goes right over compared to where your new one is. Doesn't seem to go over as far. But anyways, okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Any further questions, panel members? Okay, let's take it into committee. Any comments? Mr. Reed.
I'm happy to start. I understand the neighbors' concern with this project, but I think it's actually a very well designed and sensitive renovation and addition. I think the way they haven't extended out excessively deep into the backyard, and the addition does go up higher than the neighboring properties for this two-story portion. But I think the third-story addition works really well. So I think to me, it's clear that the architects made efforts to minimize the number of variances being requested and to minimize impacts, and I think it's successful in that way. So if my colleagues have nothing else to add, I go ahead and move a motion for approval with no conditions.
Okay, are you seconding, Mr. Nipfel?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so I have a motion to approve, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved, and staff will make the correction to the purpose that it's a semi rather than a single-family dwelling. Okay, and thank you everyone for sharing your concerns. Item number 29, 423 Vaughan Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, as well as correspondence regarding the easement and bicycle parking from the applicant and agent. Email correspondence from transportation planning regarding they'd like 4 bicycle spots. Correspondence in support from 421, which is adjacent, as well as 427 and 429 Vaughan Road. And we have concern expressed from 390 Arlington Road. And I am showing the owner of that property as a speaker. Do we have her on the line?
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, before we get to the agent. This item, variance number 5 is incorrect.
Okay, just give me 1 second here. Yeah, variance number 5. Oh yeah, that's right.
So this is one that we would have to defer in order to send out a new notice with the correct variance.
Okay, and again, is this our error or the city's error?
This is city staff's error.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes here.
So the variance should actually read a minimum of 2 parking spaces and 1 visitor parking space are required, and 1 parking space is provided on site.
Okay, so in your opinion, this needs to be recirculated?
That is correct.
Okay. Do I have the agent on the line?
Hi, it's Michael Foring speaking. I'm the designer for the project representing the homeowner.
Okay, so you've heard the comment
We
from...
have, yes. Yeah, we were contacted yesterday by the application technician informing us that this was likely to be deferred today.
Okay, so again, our apologies. It's unfortunate that we have to defer this. Before we do so, I'd just like to go to Ms. Thompson.
Sure.
Hi.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Rosalie. Can you just identify yourself, name and address for the record?
Yes, Rosalie Thompson, 390 Arlington Avenue.
So I'm sorry, I hope you haven't been waiting too long. However, because there was an error in one of the variances, as stated by the Deputy Secretary Treasurer regarding the parking spot, this whole application needs to be deferred, which means it'll be recirculated, and I'm assuming that staff will do their best to get it on the earliest available agenda. So we won't be hearing it today.
And you expect that to be late September?
I'm guessing that's the earliest, is late September, if not, probably early October. It just depends, like the agendas are quite full, so you know, we try not to defer, but we do need to have notification go out correct for the neighbors, so we don't really have a choice.
Could I ask you a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So one of my concerns, even though it wasn't part of the application, was if either the current owner or a future owner were to add a roof patio or a north-facing deck, which would have access facing east towards my property. I wondered if, even though it's not contemplated at this moment, if that were built in the future, would a process an approval process be necessary?
Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, yeah, for a deck or any changes, they would need to come back to committee. Could potentially have a depth variance. I don't know. Maybe you can address it.
If the proposal does not meet the regulations of the zoning bylaws, then yes, they would be required another application through Committee of Adjustment.
Does that?
So even though it's not, sorry.
Yeah, no, does that help you at all? So basically, if there's anything they want to do over and above what they've applied for this time, or then if it doesn't meet the zoning bylaw for whatever component it is they want to change, then they would have to come to committee. If it falls within what's permitted, then they could build as of right or make the changes as of right.
Okay, so then I would have to investigate that further to find out what the bylaw says.
Yeah, I mean,
Because
I'm not
it is
sure.
possible.
I'm not sure what your concern is. Perhaps you can.
I can tell you.
Yeah, well, we're not hearing it today, but what I'm thinking is perhaps we can ask the agent to have a conversation with you regarding what your concerns are. I mean, he may not have the answer either, because if the house gets sold or the owner changes their mind, you know, down the road with whatever they may want to change, we can't predict that. But he may be able to answer some of your questions better than we can.
You're referring to the agent for the owner, are you?
Yeah, because you're asking about a potential deck and whatnot, right?
Right, after this third story is built, if a person decides to build a roof patio or a deck north facing, is that something that requires a process, or it's the person just free to put on a roof?
You know what? I'm not a zoning examiner, and there's different provisions in different areas of the city. Sometimes they're allowed a certain size if it's small, and then if they make it bigger, then yes, they would have to come to committee. In some areas, I think, depending which level it's at, they may not be allowed a deck. So I really can't answer your question. It's a zoning matter. So the other option for you is to contact the city's zoning department.
Okay, that's great.
Okay, all right.
And
yeah,
could I just ask one more question?
Okay.
Regarding privacy.
Yeah.
Is it can a person just build windows facing somebody's property if they so desire, or are there bylaws covering that?
I think that maybe in the zoning too. Again, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer is going to weigh in on this
Through
one.
you, Madam Chair, that would be a building code matter.
Building code. Okay, well, thank you very much. You've been helpful.
Okay. So you will be recirculated when this comes back on an agenda.
All right, thank you.
Okay. All right,
Bye.
panel, Mr. Niffel.
Madam Chairman, if this is going to be deferred and it's coming back again, I believe there may be an error in the application that could be corrected, unless I'm reading drawings wrong. Drawing 601 doesn't appear to be correct. All the information indicates that the addition is only over 423 Vaughan. That drawing indicates that the third floor addition goes over 423, 425, and continues on. I think there's an error either in the way in which the drawing was distributed, or, well, I don't know why, but I don't think the drawing is correct, and perhaps the applicant could look into that.
Okay, Mr. Foring, if you can also look into that to make sure the drawings are correct.
The drawing is correct. It's simply that because the property goes back on an angle to the northwest, we're projecting flat the front facade, which faces the street, and then the back continues off on a diagonal. So that is all projected completely flat. So it should be correct.
Okay.
If that's clear, if you refer to the site plan, you can see how it goes back off on an angle from the front facade. So it's simply a direct projection of that.
Mr. Nipfel, does that explain?
I think it's a bit confusing. I only raise it because I'm not sure that way of drawing that front elevation is going to be clearly understood. And when this comes back, I'm hoping that this can go through very quickly. So I'm just drawing your attention to the fact that I think that drawing creates some difficulties.
I understood. As an alternative, if we projected the front of the addition as the square to the plane of the drawing, and then the lower facade were to extend back sort of on an angle, that would be preferred.
I think it would be easier for the general public to understand, yeah.
Understood. Thank you.
And Mr. Foring, if this gets deferred, can you also deal with the 4 bicycle spots that transportation's looking for?
That has since been
That's
dealt with.
been done? Okay. All right, great.
Yeah, we provided a plan for that. I just have one question before I go, if that's
sure.
okay.
Yep.
We did receive some letters of support after the deadline. Are we going to be given the opportunity to upload that?
Yeah, as long as you do it before the deadline for, you know, whatever it is for when it comes back.
Okay, and in terms of the process, just because this is something that we haven't had to do before, do we have to re-upload any of these documents, or whatever's been already submitted remains there and we're just adding to it?
Through you, Madam Chair, whatever is existing as the materials on file will remain.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
All right, let's take it into committee. So this is for the deferral for the reasons outlined to deal with the correction to variance number 5. Mr. Bayat.
Madam Chair, I'll move to defer the application given the error in variance number 5.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for the motion to defer? Mr. Reed. So motion to defer moved by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Okay, your application's been deferred. Item number 30, 137 Crescent Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, presentation materials. We have a staff report from Forestry's asking for condition number 2, and I believe that's everything. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Morning, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Madam Chair.
Good afternoon, Mr. Benkowski. I don't think we need a presentation. And panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Okay. Seeing none. Mr. Benkowski, we've read all the materials. There aren't any questions. We're ready to take it into committee. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
I think I'm okay, Madam Chair.
Alrighty. Okay, let's take it into committee, panel members, for a decision. Mr. Bayat?
Madam Chair, this one looks fairly straightforward to me. I just looked at the drawings as well, and I think it's a third floor deck seems to have some screening on the sides. So when it comes to privacy, it appears to conform to the requirements that we would normally have. There is a forestry condition number 2 attached to this particular application. So I'd like to move if there are no other comments from my colleagues, I'll move to accept the application as is with the condition.
Okay. Motion to approve, moved by Mr. Bayat, including forestry number 2. Who wants to second it? Mr. Clay. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you very much. Item number 31, 88 Moberly Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, 4 photographs of existing trees, statistics of existing trees, and comparables. We also have forestry, asking for condition number 2, correspondence in support from number 86, which is adjacent, as well as number 90. And I believe that's it. Okay, do I have the agent on the line?
Hi, Tim. If you can hear us, you're unmuted. You might need to unmute on your end or speak closer to the mic. Through you, Madam Chair, I'm going to try to give the agent another call.
Okay.
Hello?
Hi, Mr. Weisner.
Hi there.
Hi, can you please identify yourself for the record?
I'm Tim Weisner, the agent for the property.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Weisner? No? Okay, Mr. Weisner, we've read the material. We have no questions. Is there anything you want to add that wasn't in your submissions?
No, thank you. Just thank you to the committee and to the chair, and sorry about not being connected there.
Yeah, no worries. Okay, let's take it into committee for a decision then, panel members. Mr. Clay.
Yeah, sure. I'll start off on this one. First of all, I just wanted to thank the applicant for the photos of the trees and very nice cover letter, which made me think that I suspect all of us want to move and live on Moberly. It sounds like it's a great place to live. So congratulations on such a great street. And you've got a lot of support from your neighbors, and the application before us, I think, has very minor variances. I think looked at the plans and the drawings, it looks like it's an appropriate addition for the neighborhood. I don't think we have any problems with supporting this one. I'm happy, if my colleagues don't have anything to add, I'm happy to move a motion to approve subject to forestry number 2.
Alrighty, do I have a seconder for that motion? Mr. Reed. So motion to approve, including forestry number 2, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? All right, the application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 32, 16 Hursting Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Presentation materials submitted by Mr. Barrett, as well as opposition from 327 Winona Drive. And is it 327 or 27? Because on one sheet it says 27, the other says 327. Actually, let me go to my notes, maybe.
Through you, Madam Chair, I do have 327.
It's 327, yeah. So I think the speaker may be from there also. Okay, I'm showing 3 speakers listed in opposition. Do we have all 3? Okay, are you there, Mr. Barrett?
Yes, good afternoon, committee members, Madam Chair. Graham Barrett, 1575 Dundas West, agent for the owners of 16 Hursting.
Just before you do your presentation, I just also want to make note that we got some late arrivals yesterday, 3 form letters in support and opposition from number 329. Okay, and so I'll let you get started now. You have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Thank you. This is a proposal to convert the existing 1-story dwelling to a 3-story 2-unit dwelling. The addition will be built almost entirely on the existing footprint, and there is currently a basement suite, but it will be improved. Planning staff have been consulted about this proposal and had no concerns beyond a request to include 1-meter tall plantings to screen the basement walkout in the front, which has been added to the site plan, and I was happy to note that they had no opposition to this. There is a small tree in the front that is slated to be relocated or replaced, and I would have thought this was a city tree, but the designer has been in touch with Urban Forestry about this, and they've indicated via email that there are no city trees at this address, hence the lack of forestry conditions, so that's good. I am aware of 2 of the letters of opposition which have been sent in, and I've read them, and all of the concerns raised were related to construction issues and not the actual variances being proposed. But I've ensured that my client, who's the designer/builder, has copies of these letters, and they will be sharing them with the owners in order to minimize inconvenience to area residents. They've also offered to provide foundation inspections during construction if necessary, and I'm sure they would like this process to go as smoothly as possible for everybody involved. I also mailed out a letter informing neighbors of this proposal and offering to chat if there were any questions or concerns, but I haven't heard anything back. This letter went out to numerous homes on Hursting, several on either side, 5 across the street. I also sent letters to the homes at 140 to 148 Atlas and 319 to 327 Winona. I know the owners were speaking with some other neighbors, and both adjacent neighbors have indicated they're in support of this proposal, although this was via text message, so I don't have actual support letters to submit, but they expressed their support. I believe this proposal will fit in well with the changing character of the street and the area. There are 2 newer 3-story dwellings immediately to the west of the subject property. If you look at the presentation materials I submitted and flip to the very last page, you can see these homes which are just a couple doors over from the subject property. I also think it's important to note that this addition will be comparable in terms of scale, massing, and so on to these newer dwellings on this street. And I think it's also important to note that no variances are required for floor space index or lot coverage for this proposal. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have about the variances, but I believe this proposal passes the 4 tests and represents a solid use of the land and an increase in density that will be able to accommodate a larger family in the main portion of the dwelling and provide additional housing in the form of the basement secondary suite. So yes, any questions, happy to answer them. Thank you very much for your time.
Panel members, are you okay to hold your questions till after we hear from the opposition? Before I go to the opposition, I just want to let people know that from what I read, someone was looking for conditions regarding construction and reparation of damages to their property. These are conditions that this panel cannot impose. nor can we impose any conditions restricting people from using the laneway. So those are civil matters, and you're best to have conversations with Mr. Barrett, which it sounds like he's more than willing to do, but we have no jurisdiction to impose those kinds of conditions. And with that, I will move to Ms. Belisle.
Hi, this is Margaret Belisle and Jim Eager, and we are the owners of 327 Winona Drive, where we share the laneway with Gerstein.
Okay, go ahead. You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, as outlined in our letter, our concerns are not with the proposed building or the variances that are asked for, but with the construction process. We went through this when the laneway house at 329 rear was built, and we did suffer damage to our property, and it took over a year to resolve, and we just don't want to go through that kind of experience again. We would have loved the opportunity to discuss the project with the owners of 16 Hursting, and we do know them casually. We're not actually living at the house right now. Our son lives there, so we haven't been available, but we've not been approached by mail or by phone before we got the notice of variance requests. And we know that they are aware of our concerns from the last experience, and they seem to be accommodating. We haven't, since we're not at the house, we haven't received the letter from the correspondence from the agent, and we'd still welcome the opportunity to talk about the project.
Because it is a very kind of fragile, narrow laneway with uneven surface that just can't handle the big machinery. It was quite, actually it was traumatic the last time it happened. It was hard, anyway. We understand that it's a shared laneway.
I think that about covers that between our written submission and this, that about covers our concerns.
Yeah, we're very sympathetic to your concerns, and we understand them, but as I mentioned, we have no jurisdiction to impose conditions, so we will encourage the agent, Mr. Barrett, to have conversations with you regarding these issues, but it's not something that we can, as I said, impose any conditions. They're not related to the variances.
Mr. Barrett can contact us through our son, unless I'm able to give him contact information right now.
Well, you've just stated your name and address, 327. Like,
I'm not living at that property.
Yeah, I know your son is. I'm not sure, Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. How can we get the contact information then to Mr. Barrett?
Well,
like,
email is on
yeah.
Our email is on the letter. You can email us.
Actually, you know what? Mr. Barrett's email should be on the application. Do you know how to go into the application information center?
Yep.
Yeah, it should be on there, and or perhaps Mr. Barrett will state his email address at the end of, after I go through the other two opposition speakers. We'll see if he can give it to you then also.
Okay.
All right. Okay. I'd like to go to the next speaker. Is it Mr. or Ms. Reeves and Mr. Christian?
Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Yes, that's correct. Hello.
Can you state your address also and your full name for the record?
Yes, please. It's Christine Reeves and my husband Vyacheslav Christian.
Hello.
And we live at 329 Winona Drive and are the owners of the laneway property, actually, that leads to the back of 16 Hursting, where their garage is. And, I've been listening along, obviously. We have the same issues exactly. It is a very old, very tiny gravel laneway. And the issue is to do with the construction. We have no problem with the variances per se. but we were not approached with any kind of conversation about traversing the laneway, and would just like to ensure that they're not going to be trying to bring, you know, some sort of conditions to ensure that we're not going to have these giant trucks and tractors squeezing through our tiny laneway, causing a lot of damage to our property, which we also have incurred time and time again. So even just recently with a large truck going through, it took six, to a different property, it took 6 people trying to get it through without knocking off our hose holders on the side of the wall. So anyway, there are concerns simply about that. We do know that it's entirely possible to build houses from the front, tiny houses that do not have laneway access, because we see it in our neighborhood all the time. And we're not really against having some access through there, but just, you know, with reason about the size of the vehicles coming through, so that they're not creating damage. So I would be, and my husband would be very happy to be approached by Mr. Barrett to have a conversation about, you know, what is reasonable and doable.
All right, well, we will encourage Mr. Barrett to do so, and thanks for expressing your concerns. Do I have Mr. Reed on the line?
Yes, hi, can you hear me?
I can, if you can give us your address and your full name for the record.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Reed. I'm the owner of the property to the east, number 14 Hersting Avenue.
Okay, you have 5 minutes. Go ahead.
Yeah, I guess to start, I'm actually not opposed to this. I actually like everything that they've done, and Daniel and Adam are great neighbors. Just to be clear, I rent my property, so I'm not directly impacted by this, but I like what they are proposing. My only little caveat here, or issue that I have, is we have a right of way, and it's shown on the site plan by the applicant in between our 2 properties, and it obviously gives us access. I'm just, you brought it up there now. You'll see that and it's also noted on the plan as well, just above the word where it says 1 meter tall plantings to screen walkout. Above the word screen, it says reciprocal 0.46 by 16.15 right of way. Unfortunately, and this had nothing to do with the current owners, but the previous owners actually built on that right of way and reduced the right of way. And again, I spoke to Daniel, the current owner, and he says that somehow the architect designer is going to address this. So perhaps he can speak to that. But yeah, right now I don't want continuing with the 2nd/3rd story addition that's already encroaching on that reciprocal right of way.
Okay.
That's my comments, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. We'll have Mr. Barrett address that. Panel members, do you have any questions of any of the speakers before I go to Mr. Barrett? Seeing none. All right, Mr. Barrett, you've heard the concerns. I think you were aware of them already, but perhaps you can start with the last one about the encroachment there on the right of way.
Sure. Unfortunately, that is the first I'm hearing about this encroachment into this right of way. Hasn't been mentioned to me at all through this entire process, so I apologize to the neighbor for that. But this addition will be built on existing footprint, and I'm really not sure what else can be done about that at this time. Honestly, that one catches me off guard, and I apologize, but I would certainly relay those concerns to the owners. As for the other neighbors, I mean, their concerns are what was in their letters of support, which letters of opposition rather, which I have forwarded to the designer and builder, and instructed them to make sure that the owners have copies as well. As you mentioned, my email address is on the application form on the AIC. They can reach out to me if they like. I did send a letter to the neighbor at 327 Winona, so perhaps their son still has a copy. I did not send one to 329. This was a little outside of the radius that I mailed letters to, so apologies to Mr. and Mrs. Reeves. But again, I will stress the importance of responsible construction techniques and consideration for neighbors during this entire process to the builder.
Okay, panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Barrett? Seeing, oh, Mr. Clay.
No, not necessarily for Mr. Barrett, and we're going to go into committee, but I just was looking carefully at the variances being requested, and I noticed that number 8 and number 11 are very similar. They're basically the same bylaw number, but they refer to front yard landscaping in different quantums. So I was struggling to try and figure out what the difference between those two variances are. Maybe my colleagues know this already, but I couldn't quite figure out what the difference between the two were. And maybe Mr. Barrett knows. Maybe someone can explain that.
I'm happy to take a stab at it, but I'm not a zoning examiner, and some of these bylaws can get pretty confusing. I agree. I believe variance number 8 is just for not necessarily specified as soft landscaping. So area excluding a driveway must be landscaping of some sort. And then variance number 11 is for soft landscaping, which I guess would be a portion of the overall landscape. So the numbers are on the plans. There's 4.73 square meters of soft landscaping. And then actually the other number is not. I have a more updated set of plans just to clarify the variances here. Let me just pull that up. Wish I could share my screen with you. So yes, landscaped area available is 8.78 square meters, and then the soft landscaping is 4.73. Again, this may be a better question for a zoning examiner, but I'm sure that the numbers are correct.
No, thank you for that. I must say that I've never seen one like number 8 before, but maybe that's just me. But thank you.
No, I'm in the same boat, sir.
Okay, I think we're ready to go into committee then. Any comments? Mr. Reed, you look like you're ready to say something. Go ahead.
Well, I am now. I'm happy to go ahead. I think this is a strange sized lot and an interesting lot, and I think what's being proposed is in line with what's happening in the neighborhood. I appreciate the fact that it's remaining on the existing footprint of the house, and I think the fact that there is neighbor support shows that the designer has made some attempts to minimize impacts of this. So I move a motion to approve the application with no conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Bayat? Motion to approve, moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 33, 72 Paired Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, 3 photographs, a tree protection plan, and an amended plans package submitted by the agent. We have a staff report from planning asking for a condition, and we don't have any speakers listed other than the agent. Okay, is the agent there?
Yeah, hello, I'm architect Ravi. I'm the architect for 72 Pier. I'm here.
Alrighty. Panel members, I don't think we need a presentation. Do you have any questions for the agent? No questions? Okay. Alright, sir, we've read all the materials and we don't have any questions. We're ready to go into committee. Is there anything that you want to add that's not in the submissions? And are you aware of the planning condition? Perhaps staff, can you put the planning report up? And also, we're looking to approve the amended plans dated August 17th. Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
Okay, and you're aware of the planning condition?
Yeah, in fact, we already revised the building height, which is like a 9.75 meter, whatever is recommended by the city planners and all that, and we already fulfilled that condition.
Is that reflected in the amended plans?
Yes.
Okay, so then I guess we don't need to attach that condition. All right. Okay. So is there anything else you want to add, sir? Otherwise, we'll go into.
No.
You're good?
No, we are good. Thank you. Yeah.
All right. Panel members, so we're looking at adopting potentially the amended plans dated the 17th of August, and as you heard, that already incorporates the planning conditions, so we don't need to attach the planning report. Okay, any comments? A motion? Mr. Bayat?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll be quite happy to move motion to approve, approve on the basis of the amended plan, subject to forestry condition number 1 and planning condition as outlined.
Hang on, I don't think there's a forestry condition. I don't have one written down.
Sorry, did I make a mistake? There's a tree protection. Oh.
No, maybe you're like me, you're looking at a different one like I did earlier. I don't know.
Chair, just if it's helpful, I have forestry number 1 written down for that one as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
So it may not be a foreign condition in our agenda, but I think if you read the actual memo from forestry, sub-period is I think referred to.
Yeah. That's right. It is in the forestry list of
Are you sure that's
that forestry identifies.
Hold on a second, but is that not their tree protection plan? Hang on, I'm just looking because I don't have it. Where is it? Do you guys have anything? I don't know where because the only thing I see is a tree protection plan submitted by the applicant. I don't see anything from city staff. But staff are just double checking.
Thank you.
I think where I found it, Chair, was the memo that lists all the different properties from forestry. It was 72 period.
It's missing on the individual application, and it's listed on the composite list.
Right there.
Where?
Right outside.
Oh,
right now.
I see. Okay. Okay.
So I guess, do we have to ask the applicant whether they're aware of the forestry condition?
I mean, I can come out of committee. To the agent, are you aware of forestry condition number 1?
Yeah, we do aware with that, and in fact the owner already applied for the cutting down that tree, and then we got already the approval letter as well from this grant which assistant planner urban forestry.
Okay. Well, glad we got that sorted out. Mr. Niffel, anything else?
I just want to be clear on what we're doing. Are the variances requested have changed, is that correct, in accordance with the planning department memo? Because we have to be careful how we word this. If we're approving what was asked for, the drawings, I gather, don't agree with that. So are the requested variances changing? I appreciate that the applicant has made changes to the plan. Are we changing the variances?
No, we are not changing the variances and all that. Only there are like the building height what city requested to bring it down by 9.75, which we did it, And then the two other variances like the ground coverage, which is 35% allowed and 37% provided, and we are asking small FSI as well, which is
Okay, but those dimensions are smaller than what's in the listed variances. Am I correct, or I may not be understanding this correctly. I understood there were variances before us. You've negotiated with planning. Planning has suggested you reduce they've adjusted some setbacks. You've done that in your drawings. I'm just not clear what we're approving.
Okay, to the applicant, just to be clear, the recommendation in the planning report, you have adjusted your plans, so the amended plans reflect what planning is asking for. So they're asking for the main wall height be 8.24 and then the maximum height be limited to 9.75. So
yes.
Okay, so in that case, are you amending your variances?
Yeah, we need to amend that variances, right?
Okay.
Yeah, earlier we requested the 4 known numbers, and now there are 4 numbers, but with a modified building height.
Yeah. Okay. So just let me get this right now. Thanks for raising this, Carl. Okay, can you weigh in, Madam Deputy Secretary, because I'm starting to get confused here. So we got it. Variance 3 would be amended to.
Yes, so maybe we can walk through all 4 variances.
Okay.
Yeah, sure.
For public record. So variance number 1, there would be no change.
Okay.
Variance number 2, there would be no change.
No change.
Okay. And then variance number 3 would be changed. And I'm
yes.
Okay, so instead of, in this case, the height of the building will be 10.06 meters. We'll now read
9.75 meter.
It's number 3.
Okay. And number 4.
And then number 4, sorry, I'm just going back to the variances here. And number 4 would read, in this case, the height of the side exterior main walls will be, right now it states 8.79 meters. That would be modified to 8.24 meters. Is that correct?
Yes, you're absolutely right, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so Mr. Bayat, so we're now looking at the application as amended. Variance number 3 goes to 9.75. Variance number 4 goes to 8.24 meters. And as you indicated, forestry condition number 1. And we attach the plans dated August 17th, 2021, which are the amended plans. So, all right, so that would be, is that anything else, Carl, that we missed?
Then do we not need a condition that development will occur in accordance with those particular plans?
We can, sure. So that it be built in accordance with the plan, the amended plans.
Amended plans.
Okay. All right, Mr. Bayat, you're okay to move this the way we've just gone over?
Yes, I am.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Nipfel? Okay, so everybody in favor of approving the application as amended for variance number 3 going to 9.75, variance number 4 to 8.24, forestry condition number 1, and to build in accordance with the amended plans submitted dated August 17th, 2021. Moved by Mr. Bayat, seconded by Mr. Nipfel. All in favor? Okay, your application has been approved with those changes. Okay, The next item, item number 34, 116 Kenilworth Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plans, and elevations. I don't show any speakers other than the agent. And is the agent on the line? Hi, are you there, Daniel?
Hi, Daniel. You're unmuted. I think you're muting yourself on your end.
I'm on the line.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Daniel Gollivly, owner of 116 Kenilworth.
Okay. I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for the owner? No? Okay, sir, we've read all the materials. Panel members do not have any questions. We're ready to go into committee. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions that you think we need to know before we make a decision?
No, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. All right, panel members, let's take it into committee.
Mr. Chair, I'm happy to start this one. I thought this was quite a reasonable application. The variances in total seem fairly minor. I thought the design of the addition to the dwelling was quite sophisticated and in keeping with others that have undergone similar types of renovation in the neighborhood. So I don't have any problems with supporting this one, and I think I'm happy to move a motion to approve with no conditions.
Okay. Mr. Reed, you want a second? Okay. So motion to approve, moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 35, 97 McLean Avenue. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, support from number 87 and number 99, 99 being adjacent, and there are no speakers other than the agent. Are you on the line?
Yep, can you hear me? It's David Lyon.
I can. I don't think we need a presentation. Let me see if there are any questions. Panel members, questions for the agent? Okay, we don't have any questions, sir. We've read the material. We're ready to go into committees. Is there anything you want to add that's not in the submissions?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Panel members, we're in committee. Mr. Reed?
I'm happy to bring a motion. I think this is a reasonable and sensitive application that has no negative impacts on its neighbors. So I move to approve with no conditions.
Okay. Mr. Bayat seconding. So motion to approve moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Your application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay. Next item, item number 3678 Farnham Avenue. We have before us copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, presentation materials submitted by Mr. Turk, the agents. That includes response letters, a response letter rather to opposition letters, analysis of decisions, previous decisions affecting the property, and a summary of contact with number 76. We have support from number 93 Balmoral, as well as 8 form letters in support from number 72, 80 being adjacent, 88, 91, 93, and 99 Farnham, as well as 105 Woodland Avenue West. We have interest and concern expressed by numbers 91 and 93. We have 33 pieces of correspondence in opposition from residents on Farnham, Woodlawn, most of them are on Farnham, Balmoral, numbers 79 and 85. We also have 15 form letters in opposition from residents on Balmoral and Farnham Avenue. And I think that for just based on my notes, there were a couple people that had sent in support, which was from 91 and 93, I think, but they withdrew their support. There's a lot of correspondence here, so hopefully those are the only ones, and I didn't miss any other ones. Do I have the agent on the line?
Yes, you do.
Just your name for the record.
My name is Stuart Turk. I'm the agent, and it's my wife Danielle that's the owner.
Okay, I am showing 3 speakers, so I'll need you to do a presentation, 5 minutes, and we'll start the clock when you start speaking.
Okay, can you bring up the presentation that I supplied?
And actually, while they're doing that, I think number 87, Balmoral, also withdrew their support. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. On page 1 there that you've got up, we've got approved decisions for FSI and depth between 0.7 and 1.47 on this street. We're requesting an FSI of 0.794, which is effectively an increase of 0.044 or 22.5 square meters. Our FSI was approved in January of 2019 to be 0.75. The approval of depth that's been approved is 17.41 meters all the way to 24.2 meters, and we're requesting a building depth of 21.18 meters. If you look at item number 22, on July 22nd, the FSI was just approved for 0.99 and the building length of 21.34. So in line with what we've got. If we can turn to page 9 now. It would be the, that one there. There you go. So you can see across the street, number 99 has the building depth of 24.21 meters. And the reason they got it is because the home 2 doors over to them was lining up in the back. If you go to our home, number 78, and you see the yellow line that goes across to number 70, the addition is virtually the same addition. And if you go by the scale, the next number 80's addition next door is 13.8 feet, which is similar to the 13.9 or 13.11 feet that we're actually asking for. If we can then turn to page 12, you can see a ground view. So that's the yellow line at the back of number 72 where the addition would go to. And they've already, it's basically in line with that addition. And number 70 and 72 have been extended past number 76's home. If we turn to page 13 next, you'll note that number 76 is sitting on the side lot line. There's a 0 setback for them. And we don't want to be disadvantaged from them not requiring and maintaining the 0.9 meter setback. And we've also moved over this addition to respect their privacy over onto where that yellow box is, and it outlines the addition. If we turn to page 17, we've got the letter of support from number 80 with the 3 agreed upon conditions. So we're not going to put any windows or doors on the west side, no deck above it, and no expansion on top of the 1 floor addition. If we flip the page to number 18, those were the agreed upon drawings with number 76 until they changed their mind. I'm not sure what happened, but at some point after we had agreed, they changed their mind. If you turn to page number 19, you can see from the backyard, east, west, and north, that there is very limited visibility to any of the houses on Balmoral. 87, who has sent in a notice as well. Can't even see their house, so I'm not sure what, other than their light issue that they have, was resolved. And we've actually changed that camera to a motion sensor camera as well, as per our conversations. If we turn to page number 24, please. This was a form letter that was sent out by number 76. There you go. That was sent out to probably 200 people on an email address to get objections based on totally false information. Because if we flip to page 25, for example, they've got a big box there that they're saying that we're proposing to build an additional 40 square meter building on top of the underground existing structure. If I got that notice too, I'd probably reject myself, but there's no additional building being built onto that, and there's nothing like that in front of the committee. If we look at turn to page 27, there's a bunch of emails between number 76, but on page 27 specifically, right there, up one, sorry, he basically says that I can probably get my head around the east side too. And if we turn to 28, the next page, sorry. We actually moved the security camera, and it cost me almost $800 to move this camera. I never would have moved the camera if I didn't actually have a deal with this gentleman. So we shook hands and made a deal, and he's gone back on his word. Number 34 and number 35 are pages 34 and page 35. If we can turn to either one of those.
I don't want to rush you, but you're coming up to 5 minutes.
I've got literally one paragraph after this.
Okay.
Page 34 and page 35 is just the objections from 91 and 93, Farnham being removed. Basically, once they understood the information again, they figured they were basically being lied to. And my final comments are: we had many discussions with number 76. We were very respectful to their lack of side yard setback in our design. If the committee feels that items 4 and 5 are not appropriate or precedent setting for our unique property with an underground structure, we respectfully request to remove them and will only ask for approval of items 1, 2, and 3. This will effectively also reduce the depth of the building by 1.8 meters to 19.38 meters, or approximately an 8-foot, 1-story rear addition. And we will work within the other required setbacks for this 1-story addition. I believe our addition is reasonable and meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act and is worthy of this consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Panel members will hold the questions till we hear from the opposition. Do I have Mr. Beretta on the line?
Yes, you do.
Alrighty, if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Vincent Beretta, the adjacent owner, living at 76 Farnham Ave.
Okay, you have 5 minutes, sir, starting now.
I want to draw your attention, panel members, to the survey and note that our home was built in the 1930s to the property line between 76 and 78 Farnham. If staff could bring up the cover page of my presentation, the center line of the fence pictured is the property line, and the west edge of our house sits on that line. Note that the fence is leaning into our property. This is the result of the applicant raising the grade in 2020 without proper retention. And the fence is now on page 5 in the early stage of failure. It's my presentation, not the applicant's. Our living room and master room bedrooms are less than 1 foot from the edge of the property line. If this application proceeds, it will have material negative impacts on our property and the enjoyment of our home and yard. The addition built in 2019 has eliminated 100% of the afternoon sun in our deck and green space views, and the property and the proposed addition will make this worse. The addition will rise 18 feet from the established grade of our rear property. The committee can observe how the applicant has raised his rear yard to the point where he can now lean over and put his elbows on our fence and look into our yard and home. This is evidenced in the photos provided in my presentation. The 2020 grade raise was to partially bury the ancillary structure that is part of this application. Would staff please bring up my pie graph? The dwelling depth, variance 1, the identified depth of 21.18 meters is clearly out of line with the prevailing pattern on Farnham Ave. Pie graph 1 shows that over 99% of homes on Farnham are less than the requested. More significantly, I believe that the applicant's submission does not include all of the information that should be included to make a fair determination. The identified depth of the dwelling on the applicant's submission does not account for the added depth of the ancillary building, which is interconnected with the main dwelling and should be considered as one building. Variance 2, dwelling size. The proposed FSI of 0.794 is materially beyond the already oversized building. Approximately 91% of the dwellings on Farnham have FSIs less than the requested. If granted, this variance would have a negative impact and result in more privacy issues for us. Mr. Turp will have more direct views into our living room and master bedroom windows, as well as our rear deck and yard. We should be able to enjoy the privacy of both our indoor and outdoor space, and we already feel like our privacy has been compromised. Variance number 3, prior additions, the rear of main building. This is the applicant's third appearance at committee in 6 years. The first application was amended twice. It appears to us that each application is part of a sequence with the end game to create a development way beyond minor variance. Please refer to the image of the rear of his home on page 6 of my presentation and note the third-story door, which appears to open outward with no guardrail and is 2 stories above the applicant's proposal in front of you today. Given the context of this application, we wonder what the future holds. Variance number 4, location of ancillary building. I refer the committee back to my comments regarding variance number 1 and building depth. This variance should be denied because I believe it is the result of missing information on the applicant's submission. The ancillary building is already a part of the main dwelling. I've been inside it. In fact, his proposed addition is shown to be suspended across a void, but in fact, it will sit on an already completed foundation that interconnects these so-called independent buildings. Variance number 5, ancillary building size. The structure at 40 meters square is 4 times that allowed and is not minor. We ask that the planning department and the committee consider that there is only 1 building on this property and that the application should be treated as such. My understanding is that an ancillary building is a separate independent structure, and that is not the submission that is in front of you today. In summation, there's too much missing information, especially taken together with what has already happened. These variances are not minor. There is already a significant impact to the right to our privacy and the enjoyment of our home. The 2019 addition, which was a committee application, impacted the amount of sun in our yard. The 2020 addition to the dwelling has raised the grade beyond what is reasonable and is destroying our fence and privacy. This application will make an already bad situation even worse, and we feel enough is enough. We respectfully request the committee deny the application in its entirety. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hi, Lori, you're unmuted.
Okay. Can you hear me? I can't hear you very well. Just a sec.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Yes, it's Lori White. I live at 87 Balmoral. My property adjoins 78 Farnham at the rear.
Okay, we're going to start the clock now. You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak. As you know from my letter, I am opposing the proposed construction. I believe you said that I initially approved it and then changed my mind. That's not true. I never approved it.
Okay.
2 of my concerns are that there will be an increase in the already significant light pollution coming from extremely bright security lights on the back of the house, and an increase in unwanted views from my property into the inside of 78 Farnham through the uncovered rear windows. Evidently, the applicant has found out about these concerns because since August 7th, which was before I wrote my letter to the committee, for the first time in several years, the lower tier of lights have been turned off overnight. They've been on overnight for years, shining into my windows, and the blinds have been drawn so that I don't have to look into the windows all the time. This has reduced the amount of light coming into my house at night, which I appreciate. It's certainly that large security light at the top is not yet on a motion sensor, so I'm very happy to hear that the applicant is going to do that, because that light has been on all night long, shining into my windows for years, and it's very disturbing. So I would like some assurances that my concern is with the rear addition that those lower lights will be even closer to me, and I would like some assurance that they will continue to be off overnight, and also that the upper light will be placed on a motion sensor. That would get rid of my concerns about the lighting. My other concerns are, and also I would like the shades to continue to be drawn, because they're very large windows, and every time I look out the back, I look into those windows if the shades are open. I would Also, I consider the third construction project on the same property in less than 5 years is going to be excessively disruptive to our peaceful neighborhood. Last spring and early summer, we had a very, very noisy, dirty construction on the rear of the same property. I was working from home at the time, and it was very disturbing. So I just think it's too soon to allow that to happen again. And my other concern is that there seems to be a lack of soft landscaping and a lack, therefore, of drainage. And with the raise of the grade of the property and my property being lower, I'm worried about the consequences of that drainage issue for my property. Thank you very much. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the speaker, panel members? Seeing none? Okay, Mr. Florence.
Hi, Ken. Can you hear us? You're unmuted now. You may need to unmute on your end or come closer to your mic. Through you, Madam Chair, I can give the speaker a call.
Go ahead. Mr. Florence, if you can hear me, staff is trying to call you by phone. If you can answer the phone, we can bring you in just by audio. Is that you? I can kind of hear some paper banging around, but yeah, and I really can't hear you. I just hear stuff banging around. So why don't we try you by phone? If you can answer your phone, then we'll just do it by audio.
That's good. Thank you.
Okay.
Now, can you hear me?
Yeah, really well. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Okay. We can hear each other.
Excellent.
Okay.
So, yeah, go ahead.
I'm going to move away from my computer and getting an echo.
Okay.
Just one sec here. Okay. My name is Kent Florence. I live at 74 Farnham Avenue, which is 2 houses east of the applicant. And I'm a professional architect, and I've lived at 74 Farnham Avenue since.
Yeah, you're cutting out again, so,
Okay, let me just I'm out of the province right now, so, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's good.
Okay, so, this presentation is a request that the Committee of Adjustment, just a second here, I gotta change my settings. So the Committee of Adjustment do the right thing and not allow the Committee of Adjustment objection process to be hijacked by the false narrative of 76 Farnham, the immediate neighbor to the east of this applicant. This neighbor's overriding concern, which he stated in a July 1st email, was that he was told by a real estate agent that this application, if approved, would reduce the value of his house, his primary asset. All other arguments that this neighbor makes about setting a precedent, sight lines, illegally built ancillary buildings, possible future building intention by the applicant, and so on, is all just fluff. The Committee of Adjustment's mandate is not to consider whether a particular addition to a property would have an impact, positive or negative, on the value of a smaller adjacent property. This is exactly what the owners of 76 Farnham are asking the committee to do. If we drill down through the slurry of relentless emails orchestrated from the owners of 74 Farnham to the committee, the mainly cookie-cutter objection letters from neighbors too far away to be impacted, and the attempt to turn this application into a personality contest, the owners of 76 Farnham are objecting to this application on the basis that some unnamed real estate agent suggested that the addition at 78 Farnham would negatively impact the value of, quote, their investment in 76 Farnham. There are basically only 3 immediate neighbors who could possibly be affected in any way by this application. The adjacent neighbors to the west, to the north, and to the east. The west neighbor at 80 Farnham has written a letter of support, and the applicant in turn has agreed to accommodate their concerns regarding no second floor deck and no windows facing them. The north neighbor at 87 Balmoral, Lori Wright, who had just spoke before me, has written a letter of objection regarding security lights and her overlook issues, and I agree with her. The applicant has agreed to relocate the security lights, install a motion detector, and install window coverings in the addition to rectify these issues and concerns, and I agree with him doing that as well. The east neighbor at 76 Farnham, Mr. Beretta, who spoke earlier, has objected to a variety of red herring issues, most of which are either incorrect, misleading, disingenuous, or just not within the purview of the Committee of Adjustment. The applicant initially agreed to accommodate this neighbor's concerns regarding no windows overlooking their property, no second floor deck overlooking their property, and removing a security camera beside their property, which Mr. Turk said he already did at a cost of whatever it was, $800 or so. Significant changes were made by the applicant to accommodate these issues, then later were subsequently rejected by this neighbor. In my opinion, there does not be any compromise that will satisfy 76 Farnham other than a complete abandonment of this application. However, if this application is successful or partially successful, the applicant will still agree to honor these previously agreed changes. The Farnham, Balmoral, and Woodlawn neighborhood homes are mostly based on exceptions that would not comply with the zoning requirements if they were newly built. Most homes here are considered legal non-conforming, and that includes 76 Farnham, where it's built right on the lot line. Most homes are considered legal non-conforming with either excess GFA, excess depth, deficient side yard setbacks, many with illegal front yard parking, and a significant number with illegal two-car front yard parking. The entire neighborhood is basically non-compliant, but for the bylaw exceptions, but for previously granted minor variances, and for previously granted variances to legalize. The precedent, in my opinion, in our neighborhood is that there's a range of minor exceptions. These exceptions are so prevalent that it's what makes our area such an interesting and vibrant neighborhood.
Mr. Florence, can I ask you to wrap up because you're over 5 minutes?
I've got 1 minute left.
Okay, go.
Okay. Okay, examples about the original farmhouse is set back to the rear lot line. There are coach houses and mid-lot houses on all 3 streets. There are single, semi-detached, duplex, and row homes. There's private driveways, neutral drives, etc., etc. Anyway, to finalize, I've been told that this applicant, in discussion with other neighbors, has agreed today to a further compromise for consideration by this committee of this hearing. Namely, I understand that he will agree as follows. 1, to reduce the depth of the proposed 1-story addition to make it 6 feet shorter, 1.8 meters shorter. In other words, an 8-foot deep instead of a 14-foot deep 1-story addition. And 2, to abandon the requested variances number 4 and 5, both of which relate to an existing ancillary building. Last paragraph. In my opinion, this applicant's compromise solution is both a reasonable compromise as well as a minor variance within the jurisdiction of this committee. I urge the committee to consider today's compromise by this applicant based on its merits and not to consider their decision based on the multitude of opposition letters founded on untruths and misrepresentation that have been perpetrated and orchestrated by the owners of 76 Farnham. Thank you.
All right, any questions for the speaker, panel members? Okay, thank you. Mr. Turk, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
I know that you had mentioned reducing the depth to 19.3 for variance number 1 and removing 4 and 5, but I guess,
yes.
Are you actually doing that or not? Because it's not for the committee to make a decision. So do you want us to move forward with what's before us, or do you want to make those amendments?
I'm fine making those amendments. That's fine.
Okay, so just so I don't make a mistake here, so variance number 1, you will amend it to read 19.3 meters. And
let's call it 19.4 just to round it up.
Sure, 19.4 meters. And you are removing variances 4 and 5.
That's correct.
And the other 2 are status quo. Okay. All right, so with that, if I can have you address some of the issues that were raised, although I suspect this addresses some of them, and I know you had mentioned
absolutely. If we can go to page 20 of my presentation.
Just give us a minute, because there was so much material submitted, it's really hard for staff to find
I do apologize for that.
That's not just, I mean, just as a whole, not just you. It's just really hard to find them, because they're just numbered 1, 2, 3, 4.
It's just 1 or 2 pages down. It's the one with the back with the arrows. That up one. That one there with the left and right picture. Yep. So as far as the grade goes, this is the grade prior to the 2020 project. There's been lots of comments by number 76 that we brought up the grade over a meter. If you look at the left-hand side of the picture, that's the original garage for number 80. It's got the brown wood on it, but we've cladded it, but it's actually the original garage on number 80. So the driveway is at grade where it was. That hasn't changed. On the west-hand side of it, if you look at the middle of the picture, you walk up 3 steps to the level of the grade. And at the back of the grade, you can see there's 2 6x6s, which are 5.5 inches, which is an 11-inch raise. We've taken the final grade from 2020 to the current grade where it's at, up 5.5 inches, because one of those 6x6s is actually exposed. Below that, I believe at the rear of the property and a portion of the east side, there's either 2 or 3 6x6s again below that. But this grade has never been raised more than 4 6x6s at the most, which is well below the permitted amounts for any kind of retaining structures on the property. And in fact, we improved the drainage from the property, that all the water drains onto the driveway and down the driveway. And on the 2020 property, we've actually created full weepers around the entire underground structure, and there's a sump pump, so there's no drainage issues, and we're actually maintaining all of our own water. If we can flip the page, 2 pages down to page 22. The reason why the fence has actually collapsed is, if you look at the lower picture, number 76, there used to be an old retaining wall there, and the grade sloped up. In the top picture, the grade sloped up towards the back, which almost met our existing grade. In the last 6 months, number 76 has actually removed that and left that unrepaired for months, and has actually undermined the columns holding up the fence, which has caused it to collapse. Our retaining structure is completely sound and hasn't moved anywhere, so I'm not sure why he's indicating that, but that you can see that what's actually been removed, and he's lowered the grade actually probably about 2 bricks of retaining walls, probably about 12 inches. As far as the number of applications or people actually conforming on the street, if you go back to my page 1, there's 26 applications. The majority of those are on Farnham Avenue, other than the last 5 of them. So 21 of them are on Farnham Avenue. I've looked and searched all the committee records for the last decade plus. There's 33 applications that went into the committee in the last 10 years. Other than 2 of them, they've been approved. One of them wasn't approved, number 66, because it had an integral garage that actually reversed down. When they removed that integral garage, they actually approved number 66, and it's on the list there as number 10 at 1.37 meters FSI and a slight increase in depth. So the approval rate for the committee based on Farnham Avenue alone, again, as Mr. Florence said, is up to 97% approval rating on all the committee applications. So this street is a very wide and unique street, and there's been many, many applications. When they spoke about going to the committee 3 times, I believe I've only been in the committee once before, in 2019, in January. It's more than 2 years past that date, which is what the allowable minimum is for the committee. Anything else that was in front or minor additions that we did to the house, most of the work was interior with the application, so it's kind of misleading that there's been multiple applications. As far as number 87's concern about the motion sensor light, that was actually done today. I've had it for about 2 weeks, but the installer finally showed up today to do it. So that's actually in place. For concerns about the lower lights, based on the new addition where we'll have an overhang and the lights will be spotlights shining down, so it won't be on the rear wall of the addition as well. And now that the addition is effectively reduced to just over 8 feet, that will also be closer to our home. I think that covers all the issues that were in front of us.
Okay, thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions before we go into committee? Mr. Reed?
Thanks. Yeah, I'm just trying to understand the ancillary structure that's buried under the backyard. Can you describe what that is? And I know there have been some references to the fact that this addition will connect up with that. Is the existing ancillary structure standalone, or does it connect as is now?
It is a standalone structure as it is now.
And will the proposed addition connect up to it?
Not if we remove items 3, 4, and 5. No, it won't.
Okay, thanks.
Can I just build on that? Can you just ask, what is the ancillary structure?
What is it?
Yeah.
It's a gym.
Okay, it's an underground gym.
Correct. Instead of putting your gym in the garage, it's a gym underground.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, let's take it into committee. So we're looking at variance number 1 having been amended to 19.4 meters and removal of variances 4 and 5. Okay, any comments?
Well, I'll be brave and start off on this one. First off, just acknowledge all the interest from a rather large group of people who have signed a petition or written in. There's an awful lot of correspondence on this file, which means that everyone gave it a great deal of thought and a great deal of interest. Having said that, particularly now that the applicant has suggested reducing the size of the addition, a 1-story addition, to only protrude further 8 feet back, and has assured us that there would not be any connection with the underground structure. It sounds like, if you think about all the things, the applicant has done a fair number of things already to try and address the concerns of the neighborhood, the concerns of the adjacent neighbors. Have made adjustments to the plans, have reduced windows, have done a number of things which we would hope happens when the community rallies behind an application. I think in general, I think a small addition off the back is not out of keeping with the types of developments and additions and renovations that have been done throughout this neighborhood. So, with the changes that are suggested, and I did hear him say he was trying to address the neighbor in behind with some of her concerns about visibility and light and such. So, when we look before us, the actual variances now that are before us, I think do fall under the category of being minor. And I think, from my perspective anyways, I think I can support it.
Okay, is that a motion?
I'm happy to move motion if, I don't know if my other colleagues want to weigh in, but if they don't, I'm happy to move a motion to approve the, this proposal with the amended variances, removing variance 4 and 5 and amending variance 1 and replacing the depth of 21.18 meters with 19.4 meters.
Okay, Mr. Bayat, did you want to add something?
Just a concern perhaps, or and I'm not sure if it could be considered as a condition. The ancillary structure in the rear backyard, the underground gym that is not connected currently to the main building, would it be reasonable to request that or put in a condition that that ancillary structure or building not be connected to the main building at any one time, because it then becomes an extension of presumably your basement? And I think that maybe, I'm not sure if that's a concern that was raised by any.
I'll ask Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer. I think the removal of 4 and 5 kind of take that off the table. I think they'd have to come back for variances. Like, do we need that condition?
Through you, Madam Chair, I agree. If they're removing variance number 4 and 5, then that should be suffice.
Yeah, I think they'd have to come back with those variances if they wanted to connect it, Mr. Bayat. Okay.
Thank you, fair enough. And on the basis of that, I would be quite happy to second Larry's motion.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the amended application, and staff, you've got the changes noted. I think they were outlined by Mr. Clay. So moved by Mr. Clay, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Okay, that application has been approved as amended. Okay, thank you everyone for your input. The next item is item number 37, 181 Parkview Hill Crescent. We have before us a copy of the plan of surveys, site plan, floor plans, and elevations, a covering letter from the agent, as well as a 27 signature petition in support, and that includes numbers 183 and 179 that are adjacent. Do I have the agent on the line?
Trevor Gain, can you hear me?
Yep, I can now.
I'm Trevor Gain. I'm the agent here on behalf of the owners.
Okay, I don't think we need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for Mr. Gain? Okay, we're ready to go into committee. Mr. Gain, is there anything you want to add that's not in the materials? We've read your covering letter and all the other things that were submitted.
No, I believe it's a pretty straightforward application, and I have nothing further to add.
Okay. Panel members, we're in committee. Mr. Nifel, you're muted.
Sorry. I'd be pleased to move approval of the application without conditions. I think that this is a reasonable proposal. I think it's consistent with what's going on in the area and clearly meets the 4 tests.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Bayat?
I would second that.
Okay, motion to approve moved by Mr. Nipfel, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? The application's been unanimously approved. Thank you. Item number 38, 48 Warren Road. We have before us a copy of the plan of survey, site plan, floor plans, and elevations. Correspondence from transportation. They don't have any concerns, and support from number 43 Warren Avenue. I believe they're across the street. Now, I'm showing one speaker. Do we know if they're in? Okay. All right, can I have the agent identify himself for the record, please?
Hello?
Hi.
Hi? Hi?
Yeah, what's your name? Hello?
Hi, Ian. I believe you've muted yourself on your end. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Ian Starkey. Hi.
Hi.
I'm the applicant and architect for this application.
Okay, thanks. I'm just gonna go to, I have one speaker listed and I'm not sure if this person's in opposition or not. Hi.
Look.
Yeah, hang on,
We're not
just
in
give me a
opposition.
second. Hi, Mr. Paisley?
Yes, hi. It's Marlon and Aaron Paisley. We're not in opposition. We just like to hear about the process and application.
Okay, so you're just listening in.
Yeah, we're neighbors. We're at 239 Russell Hill Road.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Starkey, we don't need a presentation. Panel members, do you have any questions for the agent? Mr. Clay.
Sure, I just noticed the backyard is deficient of landscaping. Looks like it's already paved over or have concrete in the back. I just wondered whether there's any opportunity when you're doing construction to somehow increase some of the soft landscaping in your rear yard.
Yeah, Larry, I think that the thing that's kind of weird about this property is that there actually is a coach house with a garage that's over on the north side of the property. So it's kind of an existing scenario that whole backyard space between the coach house and the house it's actually essentially a driveway. Landscaping has been incorporated in areas where it can be, but I mean the fact is that the new addition is actually being built on an area that is an existing deck right now. So it's kind of, even though yeah, I mean it would be nice to have more, but it's just the configuration of this site, which is a long established use. It's just not really possible to do that.
Yeah, okay. I thought maybe if you're doing excavation or doing some sort of construction work there for the addition, you might be able to pull up some of that paving, but I understand.
Yeah, it's just like a question of being able to maneuver there. I guess I'd point out that the area to the west of the coach house is all soft landscaping as well, which isn't really much use for the people that are in the main house, but that's just the nature of the site, which has been this way for a very long time.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Seeing none, before we go into committee, I just want to note that we received last minute correspondence yesterday in support of the application from number 44, 47, and 52 Warren Road. Okay, let's take it into committee for a decision. Mr. Reed.
Thanks, Chair. I think the addition that's being proposed is very small and reasonable and is defensible. I shared some of Larry's concerns about the big paved area in the back, but understanding that that's an existing condition, I think that is that's understandable. So I move to approve with no conditions.
Okay, do I have a seconder? Mr. Bayat. So a motion to approve moved by Mr. Reed, seconded by Mr. Bayat. All in favor? Okay, the application's been approved unanimously. Panel members, before we go into our final time slot, because I think some of them could be a bit lengthy, I'd like to take 5 minutes and then come back, and we'll start then with item number 39, which is 37 Austin Avenue. Okay, so we'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, panel members, we are going to go to item number 39, 39, which is 37 Austin Avenue. We have before us a copy draft plan of survey, site plan, floor plans and elevations, a covering letter from, I'm showing, am I like reading? I feel like I'm reading the wrong thing, from Mr. Barrett, and an arborist report, as well as further correspondence from the applicant. Now, we have correspondence from planning and forestry, both supporting a deferral. Now, there's significant opposition for this application as well in terms of correspondence. I do show 2 speakers listed, and I understand that the agent is aware of the deferral request, which is due to insufficient notice given by the city. So we are looking to hopefully defer for the first available date. So, Mr. Barrett, are you there?
Yes, I am. Good afternoon again, committee members, Madam Chair. You are correct. I've been informed by staff that public hearing notices were not sent out on time and public didn't receive adequate notice, so a deferral is inevitable. But more importantly, I'm also aware of the opposition and the concerns raised by numerous area residents. I've received many emails from the neighbors, and I've been passing their concerns along to the owner, and he is taking them into consideration and thinking about revisions to these plans. So as soon as I have something to show these neighbors, I will be reaching out to all of them, hopefully with something that's more agreeable. And we would like to get back in for a new date as soon as possible. However, revisions aren't quite complete at this time, so I'm not sure when that might be, but we're working on it as quickly as possible.
Okay, I think Madam Deputy Secretary will work with you, so as soon as she gets the revisions and what you want to put forward, then they'll try to put you on the first available date. Just before I go into committee, I do have 2 speakers listed. I just want to go to them. Are they both there or just one? Okay. Mr. Lehman? Bob?
Hi, Bob. Oh.
Hi.
Yes, I have nothing to add, so thank you, but I'll pass.
I'm sorry, is this Bob Lehman?
It is.
And you're at 35 Austin?
No, it's Mark Lehman that you want to be speaking to at 35 Austin.
Ah, okay. And what's your address for the record then?
I actually live in Barrie, Ontario, so I'm not...
okay. Okay. All right, we'll go to Mark then. Hi, Mark, are you there?
Hi. I am, thank you. It's Mark Lehman. I live at 35 Austin. Thank you for...
I'm sorry, so yeah, just to the deferral. So you understand that we have to defer this because the notices weren't sent out in time?
I do, and I'd like to speak just for 1 minute and make a request to the committee based on a previous president of the committee regarding granting the deferral, and ask for 3 conditions be applied to the deferral, if I may.
Okay, if you can do it just really quickly, go ahead.
Sure. The applicant obviously has never discussed the plans with me or the neighbors, consequently all the letters of objection, and in this regard I'd point to a June 12th, 2019 COA hearing regarding a different but very close property, 33 Austin, 2 doors down to the west of 37. Just 2 years ago, this applicant similarly advanced a proposal without discussing it with the neighbors, which similarly had a number of letters of objection submitted by neighbors. Because of this, at that hearing, it was moved by you, Madam Chairwoman, and unanimously carried by the committee that the application be granted a deferral, but only on 2 conditions, those being that the applicant have an additional 3 months to discuss the applications with the neighbor, the revised plans, and after that had been addressed satisfactorily with the neighbors, only then come back to committee. So I'd like to see that applied in this case, given that precedent, and given the that in this case the application is much larger in scope, requests a consent to sever, which 33 didn't, asked to build 2 semis, which 33 didn't, asked for 18 more variances than 33, and has received 22 more letters of objection. than 33. So I think that at minimum, that condition for a much smaller application than that precedent for 33 be applied to 37. And I would note that each and every one of the letters that you received is not a form, but a unique letter where neighbors outlined their very unique concerns. The second condition, given the previous Committee of Adjustment approval of my master bedroom window, which you can see in my written submission, I ask the committee make a second condition that the applicant revise the plans to either be 2 stories or have an appropriate side setback to my master bedroom window, as I said, previously approved by the committee. And lastly, thirdly, because our houses are quite literally attached to each other, there are numerous construction issues which they've never discussed with me, so I would ask that the committee make a third condition to the requested deferral, being that the applicant, before returning, provide a structural engineer's report from an unbiased engineer that we both agree upon, which details how the revised plans will be constructed without damage to my property. Thank you, members.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lehman. Madam Deputy Secretary Treasurer, I don't think we can put a condition for a structural engineering report.
Through you, Madam Chair, again, that would all get determined at the building permit stage if this application were to be approved.
Okay, Mr. Barrett, can you just speak to the 3 things very, very briefly in terms of should the committee grant a deferral, which I think we have no choice but to, that you will undertake to discuss the application with neighbors? And I know you noted that you have seen the letters, and hopefully you will have a meeting with them, and also address the setback to the bedroom window, and maybe have a conversation with Mr. Lehman regarding construction and how it impacts him.
Yes, as I mentioned, I've already responded to each and every email that is coming to me from the neighbors, so communicating with them is already underway and will continue. I don't think it would be wise to return to this committee without having discussions with this group of neighbors. As for a 3-month conditional timeline on that, I would hope to get it done sooner. We don't necessarily want to wait 3 months before having a revision in hand, but it's difficult for me to commit to that timeline exactly, and I'm not really sure if it can be enforced, but we're going to do our best to come up with a solution to this as soon as possible. I'll certainly relay the neighbor's comments regarding his 2nd-story window back to the owner to be taken into consideration when preparing a revision. And as for construction issues, not really a matter for committee, but certainly something that I can bring up. And I know that the owner of 3007 Austin has every intention of building this responsibly and not impacting his neighbors.
And just as a side note, from my notes actually, from the letters that were written, there were also concerns regarding the trees, the character, the size, the floor space index, as well as the footprint and light and privacy. So maybe when you're having conversations, you can keep all those issues in mind also.
Yes, I've certainly been keeping track of these submissions and making note of the concerns. And I mean, it isn't really something to discuss today, but there's a large tree in the back that will be maintained. I noticed a lot of letters said that it'd be taken down, but that's not the case. So we will certainly return with something that is hopefully more agreeable to everybody in the neighborhood.
All right, so with that, let's take it into committee panel members. And who would like to weigh in? Mr. Clay. I thought it looked
sure.
like you were going to speak.
I think it sounds like we've got at least a satisfactory process for deferral. So, and I think we as a committee would agree with deferral. So I'll put forward a motion to defer this. I do like Mr. Lehman's condition about requiring that the applicant have conversations with the surrounding neighbors. I'm not sure whether we can put a condition in about, as he requests, about changing the nature of the structure. I think that's frankly subject to those consultations and discussions. And I think staff were suggesting that we can't really put forward a condition with respect to structural engineering, but one hopes and expects that that would happen as a matter of course through the building permit process. So long-winded motion which basically says move to defer subject to the condition that discussions take place over the course of time between the proponent and surrounding neighbors.
Okay. And that is seconded by Mr. Reed. All in favor? Okay, the application has been deferred and it'll come back when the applicant submits revisions to staff. Okay. All in favor? I think I said that, but I think I'm starting to get tired here. So I think it was a unanimous decision to defer the application. All right, the next item is item number 40. Oh, sorry, I forgot. We have to reset the YouTube again. So just bear with us a couple minutes.
For anyone watching on YouTube, we're just going to move to PM Part 3.